Hey, I'm going to show you today how I'm going to build my AI cold outreach system for Twitter and how we've been using it at my agency to be booking 10 to 20 calls per month. And I'm going to show you how to find high quality leads, how to filter and enrich these leads, how to build a cold DM ready offer so people actually want to buy your offer, and how to make good cold DM copy. And I'm going to show you some of the proof that we've gotten over here with booking calls, with actually getting people there and people complimenting the outreach, as well as getting responses from people with tens of thousands of followers on Twitter who are known in the B2B space. So first and foremost, for any cold outreach, you have to find leads. That's pretty obvious. And there's a lot of different ways for cold email, and same thing with Twitter. There's 5 different ways that we found that we've been using for ourselves and our clients to find leads. So the first one is just followers of profiles, right? This is really basic. You can go over here and just type, let's say Alex Hermosi, and scrape all of his followers, get 800,000, right, quote unquote leads. However, the problem with this, that because he's so big and he's so broad, anything after about, I found 30 to 50,000 plus followers, the followers start to get diluted because, obviously for Alex Hermosi, he talks about just business in general. So any business owner can even, follow him. And even people who don't have a business but want to have one can follow him. So the lead list quality on these isn't that great. And that's why a lot of softwares that do Twitter outreach, they just scrape followers. And then they're like, okay, like here are, you have thousands of leads. If you do the math and the conversion, you'll just get calls booked just like that, just like magic, right? And if you've tried that for yourself, it just doesn't really work that way. And very similar things for cold email. You'll scrape a massive list from Apollo, the same leads that everybody uses, and then obviously they might not be the most quality or something, and then something bad, like nobody really responds. Number 2 is the followings of the profile. So this is actually much better. If you go over here, instead of followers following, let's say Alex Hermosi, right? Obviously in this case, he's going to follow people who are probably at or higher than his level. So probably, like his wife, like Leila Hermosi. Like you can see like a lot of people who are big founders here, he follows and, he takes interest. So then if you scrape that list, it'll be much better. And this is very good to do on kind of smaller-ish creators, right? So let's go over to somebody who responded to our outreach, Lucas, right? So he has 13,000 followers. It's not too big to not scrape his followers, but he's probably following a lot of people who are doing cold email, who are just at his level or higher, or they're selling high ticket, some sort of service like that, right? So he's more in line, more niche down. Therefore, it would be better to scrape his following count, right? And then the third one, and this is one of my favorites, is scraping the comments section of a Twitter post or Twitter tweet, right? So you might have seen on Twitter, let's say if we use advanced search, right? So advanced search, a lot of people don't know, but it's very simple. If you just go over here and let's say that we want to type in cold email and let's say comment, right? So now the tweet or the person, if we go to people, it's going to have the keyword cold email and then comment, right? So it's going to have both of those in it at some point, right? So you can see right away, we already see a bunch of giveaways here. Obviously, cold email has massive, amounts of interest on Twitter. So you can see people will comment Santa or whatever, like the keyword is. They'll comment, and lots of people who comment on this will be interested in cold email, right? And you can scroll down, are these qualified or not? You can find different giveaways, but it's very easy for your niche. If you just type in a few of your keywords, and then you type in comment or retweet, and then you scrape these, it's much easier to build a campaign of these because although there's only a few hundred people who comment on these giveaways, 100 to 300. The people who commented on this are most likely interested in cold email, right? So everybody who comments, like Ayman Arab, all of these people, they probably have some sort of agency or service and they're using to outreach, right? So it's really good to scrape these lists. And then you say, hey, maybe in your outreach, you're like, hey, I saw that you're interested in cold email. Like, oh, how did you know that? Even if they don't have cold email in their bio, let's say that they're a content agency, there's no word cold email in their bio. You can only get that if you scraped from the comments list and then you knew, oh, okay, they want something related to cold email, right? So that's just a really good way of doing that. Number 4 is good for some other audiences. So we have a client right now who's outreaching to gaming content creators. And what that will do is that we'll scrape from different sources. So not just Twitter, because there isn't the biggest amount of gaming creators or Twitch streamers on Twitter. So we'll find them from, school, YouTube. A lot of YouTubers will leave their social links and their email just wide open in their bio, and then we'll just scrape that. Or you can find it from an influencer database or Twitch even. So it just depends on who that you're targeting. But if you're targeting any sort of B2B, normally Twitter is a good place to go. And then you can even find people from LinkedIn and then enrich and find their profiles on Twitter or they're less likely to be hit up because there's no real gatekeepers on Twitter like there is for email or LinkedIn, right? I mean, sorry, not LinkedIn, but email, right? And then number 5 is pretty simple, but it can help a lot. Is if you do this, like the same thing, cold email and let's say scaling, and then you can do this for giveaways, but you can also do this for people. So if you go over here, everybody here will have cold email and scaling. Now it's not like a lot of people, but if you want to find profiles to scrape off of, maybe his followers, his following, and keep on going down that rabbit hole, you'll find really good quality leads that way. And I had like an example here, right? Like Aaron, he has a really big following on Twitter, I think 200 something thousand. So if you scraped his followers, it could just be anybody interested in, like remotely growing on any social media. But the people that he's following are probably talking about funnels, email lists, newsletters, those sort of things, right? So if you're targeting those people, it would be great to do that. And then you can even put this into Claude or ChatGPT saying, hey, I helped this ICP achieve a result through mechanism. Who would they follow on Twitter, right? So it's not going to give you perfect exact links, but let's say I help content agencies making 10 to 30K per month. Let's say if it's a lead gen offer, book 20 more calls per month through social media outreach. Then it'll probably give people who I can just search up on Twitter. If you have absolutely no clue where to start, this is probably a pretty good starting point. I don't know why it's not working. Anyways, but what it would spit out a bunch of handles and stuff. You can go and search them up onto Twitter. Not really rocket science, right? But it will definitely help out a lot. Now, how do we make an offer for Twitter outreach, right? I think this is really important to know that the best copy in the world, like the most persuasive thing, doesn't really matter if the offer isn't good. You've probably heard that like a lot of the time, right? And this is true because I've done 1 or 2 lines worth of copy in my whole DM, and because it's something that's really valuable, people will just take it at a really high response rate and positive response rate. So there's a few different ways of doing this. Number 1 is free lead magnet work, right? So you can either do something that's service-based, like a Loom or a personalized doc, where it's like, hey, I went through your paid ads library, or I went through the first 30 seconds of your video, let's say for a content agency who's targeting gaming creators. And they'll say, hey, I saw that the thumbnail and the actual thing, it didn't look, like the same. So maybe when your viewers click on it, they actually bounce because it's not one-to-one what they expected the intro and the video content to be, right? So I rewrote your script and remade your thumbnail, and then like you send it right there, right? Like you can either send the value up front or say, hey, can I send it here? Obviously, if you send it up front, it's better because then like you don't have to ask for permission. And a lot of people are doing that now where, like they will ask for permission. Hey, can I send it over? And it still works. It's just not as good as if you gave the value up front, right? Second one is like a free automated lead magnet. If you can make this personalized, this is the best. So what we used to do is that we would say, hey, I saw that you are targeting XYZ person. We just scraped 100 leads for your ICP. Is it cool if I send them over here, right? So it's like 2 sentences. The copy is nothing, rocket science. But because we said, hey, we found 100 leads who are interested in their service, and like specifically like, if it's, let's say, a content agency for gaming creators, like the same example, I could say, hey, I just found 100 gaming creators who need help editing or making thumbnails for their videos. Cool if I send them here. 2 sentences. The copy is not rocket science, but we got 3 to 5% positive response rate, which means out of 100 people that we sent to, we got 3 to 5 positive responses. And then those turn to emails, and now we have a bunch of emails that we can send on the email list or just contact them later, right? Which we did, and we've booked a few calls doing that by just saying, hey, saw that you were interested in the leads, want this as well, right? So then number 2 is the offer pitch. So this works a lot better when you have less market sophistication, right? So the examples I was showing on these slides, Lucas, right, he has an agency that does cold email. So he probably gets hit up with a bunch of cold emails and cold DMs, but outreach all the time. So there's a very high market saturation, kind of like high market sophistication because he gets hit up with these a lot. He's kind of like immune to it almost, right? So because of that, I wasn't really expecting this to get a response, but it did. But we've had other people who sell VR and AI services to local businesses and or, some specific kind of country. So we had a response recently, like last week, a positive response, who this guy was selling VR and AI to people in Eastern Europe and companies in Eastern Europe for better data collection. And he responded because he probably doesn't get a lot of cold DMs or cold emails in that kind of fashion versus, the same 15, calls per month, pay on results. A lot of people are immune to it now. So you would really have to send out a lot of volume, which we did, in order to get a lot of positive responses that are actually meaningful, right? Then number two, in the quote unquote offer pitch, is one-time offers or low risk offers or like one-time setup kind of things over your main offer. Because if your main offer, let's say as a content agency, is hey, for $5,000 a month, we will manage your whole content on YouTube. We'll make you 4 videos a month, all of this stuff, right? It's hard to pitch that at the very start when they don't know you because it's cold outreach. There's no trust. Versus if you give them something for free, or you're like, hey, we can do a one-time, one video for a fixed price for, $1,000 or whatever amount of money, you blow their socks off, and then you upsell them into something else. It's much easier that way, right? Or like on a performance basis, which what like we are doing right now. We're working on performance, and then later on we'll probably move over to a retainer model because we've already shown them that we can get results. So why not just pay almost cheaper for the retainer, and then we have consistent cash flow, obviously, right? So that's just a way to make it way less risky while still giving them a lot of value and still making some money up front, right? So these two work really, 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 really well. Just try them out. Make a few lead magnet ideas. See what works for your business. Make a few one-time offer ideas and just try them out, right? Like you don't need, that many different offers. Just try a few that you think have worked in the past or might work. Look at your competitors, what that they're doing, and then boom, just see what works, right? I also wanted to provide an example of kind of each of these sort of things. So you first saw the direct offer for Lucas. This was for somebody who was doing a kind of like AI content writing SaaS called Postel. So what we said is, hey, first name, we saw that you could get more inbound leads for Postel using Twitter. We use something similar for, and then we put our case study. Cool if we send over a Loom, right? So obviously it's better if we send over the Loom in the first place, but because this is automated, it's not possible yet, right? So, and then he's like, yeah, of course, send me over the Loom, right? So these kind of things do pretty well, especially when it's at least some form of personalization, not just beyond first name, which a lot of softwares just don't do. And they're like, oh, just blast out like a bunch of, cold DMs, which will probably land in spam doing that. And then you'll have to re-warm up the accounts and all of that. So, and that's happened to us before, right? So that's why that we're taking it more cautiously now, not only having more personalization, but better offers that when more people say yes to your offer, your account doesn't look like it has like a 0.01% reply rate, and then you don't get marked in spam, right? So these are just a few frameworks that we use for making offers, but it's honestly really, really, really simple. You just have to make sure it's low risk, so it's either free or something service-based, so all that they're paying with is their time to watch the Loom or consume the doc or whatever, or you give them something free up front and then say, hey, we have a one-time or a low-risk offer. Do you want to do that? And then later on, they can, ascend into something that's more expensive, right? But these are really good because nobody wants to get onto a retainer right away, right? So that's basically how that we are going to be doing it and how I'm going to be doing it. I'll probably make a video later on in a few weeks from now showing the results that we've gotten from our campaigns of restarting our outreach because it was working, and then we got 4 clients in a week or something, I think around 10 days, and then we had to do all the client delivery, then we slowed down our outreach. So I'm going to probably make another video later on talking about how that we're doing that, and the like specific in the dashboard, kind of how that we're scraping them, filtering them, all of this stuff, a lot more nitty gritty. So yeah. If you want all of this set up for yourself, by the way, the whole system, the whole 9 yards, we can set up the accounts for you, the warm up, have them branded, have content on them, have everything so it builds up authority, so when people respond, they know that it's a real business, as well as the DM strategy with personalized outreach, our own in-house software, all of this, reply management, so all they have to do is show up to the calls. You can book. It will be the first pinned comment or link in the description. Hopefully this helped you out. The document will also be in the description if you want it. So hopefully this helps you out, and I'll see you in the next one.